And this is, roughly speaking, what I would do in terms of a performance review and how you can do a performance review of your own site. So this webinar was entitled A Holistic Approach. It is entitled. What do we mean by that? And it's fairly simple, really. It's about using the data, your web data, in combination rather than in isolation, which tends to be how most people in teams and running sites will look at it, partly through time pressures and for other reasons. What we'll cover today, I'll talk quickly about tools and preparation, mapping your site, traffic channels, content, user behavior, audiences, some SEO stuff, and then a quick mention of KPIs, because they were also mentioned in the invite, and I thought I'd better talk about them. So here we go. For the purposes of this presentation, I'll only be, everything that can be done with GA4, Google Search Console, and Google Sheets. Typically, I would also use some paid tools. SEMrush, which is the SEO tool I use for site audits and lots of other stuff besides. And Screaming Frog, which is a terrible name. Some of you may be aware of it or used it. And it's a really powerful site analysis tool. I mentioned that, and I'll talk about it a bit more because it's quite cheap by comparison to having a fully blown SEO tool that you probably won't use very much. It's a really good site analysis tool. So to begin with, like, yeah, don't start from here, as the old joke goes. This is making some assumptions that your data collection is set up correctly. Events, everything is captured as events, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. The way GA4 works, if you want to be able to slice and dice data, then things such as button clicks, internal button clicks, or email signups or whatever like this should be captured as individual events. That will hopefully become a bit clear to you if you don't understand. I'm assuming a basic level of knowledge of these tools. I mean, we will look at them, but I'm not going to go into detail about how to use them, except for some specific cases. Your internal search systems are captured. Your e-commerce, if you've got it, donation platforms, you're capturing that kind of data. If too much is missing, or if we have a quick look, if the setup is really bad, then I suggest what you need to do is set it up correctly. So at least you've got the data you believe in, and come back in 6 or 12 months. Generally, I would use 12 months data because that covers seasonal trends, and it gives you a nice comparison block to look at the previous 12 months for changes and what have you. 6 months, you can do quite a lot of analysis, particularly in terms of behaviors on the site and so forth. 12 months is ideal. So the first thing, like with your Google Analytics data, is does the data look valid? First thing, traffic channels. Have you got an enormous amount of unassigned traffic? And by enormous, I mean maybe more than 5%. Do you have an enormous amount of direct traffic? Does your organic search traffic, how many visits it says you're getting, match what your Google Search Console data says for the amount of clicks you've got for organic search? These are just kind of basic things. Most of the time you'll be absolutely fine, but you need to check it out. Pages, average engagement times. If you've got pages that have a 1 second engagement time, that probably looks like something iffy, might just be bots. But if, again, you see that replicated, you've probably got a problem with your analytics collection. Landing pages. So if we have a look at some of these, like traffic acquisition. Thank you for Ethical Consumer, particularly Alison and Sarah here, because we're going to be looking at some of their data. They've allowed us to share some of the stuff. So these are your basic traffic channels. Here we have just under 2% is unassigned. Unassigned means Google doesn't know where it's come from. We'll talk about how to tease that out a little bit. But these are the kind of things, and landing pages. Typically, if you've got a problem, often with cookie consent, you will see a lot of not set here. We've got 5%. It's not perfect. It's not too bad. But you don't want to see these too big because it means that your data is probably unreliable. Hostname, something people tend to forget if you're looking at your site. How many of your sites are you actually looking at? If we have a look at this one, and we have a little filter, how many sites are actually being collected here? So we've got the main site, we've got Google Translate versions, we've got a subdomain, we've got Lando and dev sites and staging sites, some completely unrelated site that must be accidentally using the same GA4 code and stuff. So you need to look at these things and kind of make some adjustments and also figure out if you've got the data that you need. So assuming all this is good, the first thing I would do is map your site. Do you know how many pages are on your website and what they are? Most people, that's a big hard no. How many pages in what folder structure? Do you have lots of widowed pages and no links to them? How many pages are indexable by search engines? How many URLs are indexable? Some of them will be files and so forth. So this doesn't necessarily, particularly on smaller sites, take very long to do. You'll have sitemaps, XML sitemaps usually, that you're presenting to the world. That should include all your indexable pages. In GA4, you will have a pages report. So if we just get rid of this. Sorry, always hit the wrong one. So your pages. This will list more pages than actually exist for many reasons. But typically, so for here, we've got 5,000 pages. We don't want to look at the last 28 days, but ideally we want to look at the last 12 months. So 5,000 or 6,000 pages that have had a single view. 32,000, there's a reason for that. Typically, I would download this and then clean it up in Google Sheets, because why does it think it's got that many pages? Because before it was reconfigured, every Facebook visit would have its own unique URL. For example, HubSpot, Salesforce, lots of other things will apply their own sort of URLs. So you kind of have to tidy and clean this up. And then Google Search Console. Google Search Console will tell you how many pages are on the site. So this is actually agile.coop. Here we go, 3,500 indexed. So you want to see if these match. I would also use Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog is a tool that goes and just crawls and indexes your site. And I'll show you why that's super useful and saves lots of time, maybe a bit later. So this is a site mapping I did a few weeks ago for a big international NGO as a client. Their sitemaps, this is where it obviously gets a bit confusing. So they only include the English versions of pages on sitemaps. They've got 2 other versions, 2 other languages. So we work out there's probably this many URLs, about 13,500. Screaming Frog finds 30,000, of which 11,500 are indexable. If we look only at English, it's got 4,000 indexable pages, which is actually a load fewer than sitemap, so something is wrong there. GA4, 37,000, of which 15,000 a page. When you've got something like this, you kind of like, there's problems with indexing the site. The site looks like a bit of a mess, frankly. And actually, in the analysis we did of this, the site is a bit of a mess. Search Console sees 240,000 indexed URLs. this points to other problems, you could then think of going investigating. But ideally, at least what you want to do is go, okay, I've got roughly this many pages in this folder, so like under About Us, this many under Donates to Us, or however, however your site is configured. It's useful because it tends to show where you've got a lot of junk or a lot of old content, for example. It's a good way to start, just to get a sense of where your site is. I will, if there's time at the end of this, after the questions, I'll give you a quick look at Screaming Frog. I'm not a salesman for them, but for 200 quid, and for the amount of time it will save you, it will map properly for you in ways that you don't have to do then in Google Sheets using other data sources. Your site structure, page depth, internal linking, broken links, unpublished pages, redirects, canonicals, content length, content readability scores, meta tag analysis for SEO. You can hook it up with other tools for get page speed and usability scores, all this kind of stuff. Structured data if you've got events or products or what have you. You can also use it to analyze competitor sites, etc. So it's like 200 quid per user and you can use it multiple times. It's super cool. I just thought I should drop that in because it's useful and I suspect some of you would really benefit from it. So in terms of analysis, I'm going to begin with traffic channels because it's probably the easiest way to get an overview of what's happening on your site. It's relatively simple. There's only a small number of traffic channels. You do have to check the data for accuracy, and we'll look at that in a moment. One of the core things to do in terms of this is mapping the channels to landing pages and segmenting your traffic channels by country, by the engagement, bounce rates, whether they're for new or returning visitors. Because one of the things we want to do is build audiences. How are particular sets of people arriving at the site? What are they looking for? Which pages are they interested in? And how do we move them to the outcomes that are relevant to them? And one of the ways to simplify this and remove all the noise is to look, for example, so like here's a landing page report for Ethical Consumer. Great, that's showing me where everyone's landing, like from all the different channels. That's kind of useless. I'm trying to figure out what's going on the site though. So what I want to do is add filters or comparisons. There's some inbuilt, there's some that I've bought, created. So we just apply a couple of those. So typically I would filter these kind of reports, particularly landing pages. It's an absolutely brilliant report. And I would download it. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Download it to Google Sheets where I can work with the data much more. And that's a very typical thing we'll be doing. We'll be creating reports, downloading it into Sheets where we can sort and remove junk, and then synthesizing it so we can get a real sense of what's happening. So if I look at this, the most popular page, okay, 430,000 visits, 385,000 are coming from organic search. That tells me quite a lot about their page, and then I can go and look at my organic search data in console and say, what are people searching for that's they're coming to this page? Therefore, how can I align this page to what they're looking for example? So that's probably the key thing with traffic channels. Again, Ethical Consumer, half of the visitors to that site are coming from outside the UK. They're not necessarily monetizable. If you're a council, it might be the local city. If you're regional, it might be like England rather than Scotland, or Scotland rather than England you're looking at. So again, with these kind of things, you can filter and say, just show me the visits that are coming from the UK, because actually those are the ones that are actionable for me. So again, GA4's got all these filters and comparisons and so forth. So I could select dimension, country. It will filter it by the most, it will list it by the most common. So actually, all I want to know is the people coming to these pages from the UK, because they're the only ones who are actually going to subscribe, for example. Maybe for a boycott, it's something different content types, have different audiences, different purposes. That's the way we look at these sites. That's going to take ages. There we go. So that's now only showing me the UK. So actually, that boycotts page with 400,000 visits, only 75,000 UK visitors, which is my core audience. So I need always to be looking at filtering. So in your head, when you're looking at this, you need to think, okay, well, roughly who am I looking for? And then build filters and grab that data from reports, download it. New and returning visitors, very important audience groups. You can want to treat them slightly differently. How much do you trust your channel data? So what you see in GA4 is default channel groupings. Google, there's about 14 of them. And it will say, okay, I think this is coming from Facebook paid search. I'm going to put that as paid search. This is coming, I know, from Google Organic. This is coming from email and stuff. These are the most typical things that you'll find are wrong. Direct traffic. Direct traffic is often a really big percentage of your traffic. Actual direct traffic is people bookmarking the site or typing it in and so forth. So it's quite easy to see whether your direct traffic is real by looking at the landing pages again. So if I look at, let's here, just direct traffic, we'll add it as a comparison. What I would expect to see if it's direct is the home page and maybe a few other key pages. Like if I'm a social worker, I might bookmark a particular page for rules and regulations that I need to use in the field and so forth. Here, let's just get rid of this one and only show direct. If I've got more than about 5 or 10 pages that are direct traffic, and here I've got 2,063, that's not direct. Typically, it will be one of two things. It will either be email that hasn't been properly tagged when you're delivering it, you haven't tagged the links, or it will be social sharing, other people sharing your content socially. We see boycotts here, that again, we know there's a lot of social traffic to this, Palestine boycotts, etc. So that would typically, I would put that as going to be social traffic. If I see big spikes, badoing here, that's probably when an email broadcast goes out. So you kind of have to think of it like that. When you're looking at your data, you then need to be aware, okay, I'm going to have to manipulate this because actually that's not direct. Referral traffic. If you look at your referral traffic, you will typically see, let's actually look at traffic, Michael. That might be more useful, wouldn't it? Referral means visits from other websites. So typically you'd have some nice websites that are kind of related to you that will send traffic to you. Let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. So we'll have a look at source medium. Source is the channel and the medium is the channel, and the other way around, I always forget. Let's just filter it for referral. What does it think it's sending as referral sites? ChatGPT, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, these are all social. SurveyMonkey, that's something different. Social, Twitter, UK, Yahoo search, XDAI. So, wow. And on one particular day, anyway, Instagram. So again, there are ways you can manipulate this data in GA4, but also you need to know, actually, I don't think I'm getting any social traffic. Actually, here's another 100,000 visits that my marketing or social team or whatever should be interested in. Emails, does it spike consistently when you look at email like every month? If there's a few months missing, you've probably got missing data. Unassigned traffic. Some sites, if you've got more than about 5% unassigned, it's incorrect tagging, it might be bots. You need to look again at landing pages and so forth. Make sure your data is correct. You can add custom channels as well. I've done one, for example, on ethical consumer. Here's my little regex for it. That just captures AI chatbots, because that's a growing kind of thing. So you can create your own channel groups. Here we have, I've created one called AI tools as source, and then I can filter my traffic and all that kind of stuff for anything that's specific to you. It might be HubSpot or something like that. So you can actually create your own stuff. So for doing analysis, so let's assume we've got all that out of the way and we understand where all the actual traffic is coming from. We can make adjustments for it. Filter your different reports by channels. So particularly landing pages, looking at engagement and bounce rates, particularly on those, key events and revenue. So on a landing page report, it will automatically show you revenue. You can also filter it for specific events. So for example, let's do one here. Newsletter sign-up completion. You do that, you can add filters if you want to, like only show me UK stuff, and then you download it. You download it, export it to Google Sheets is how I would do that. That will give you then a much easier way of manipulating, sorting the data, getting rid of junk and so forth. So typically when I'm doing a performance review, I will download, I don't know, 15 or 20 different kinds of these reports. Use default filters. You can create your own filters, like there isn't one by default for UK organic search. So I do that. Download the data. You might want to then break it down as well. This is, I won't go into this too much. But in terms of when we're doing the analysis, like informational pages that people come to from search, they might be looking for how to breastfeed my baby safely. They want to read that, and then they're going to leave your site. That's high exit rate, long session duration, people coming to something really specific. With someone who's coming to your home or about page, they've typed in your name, your organization name, basically. So their behavior would be very different. When we download all this data, it's quite easy to then start doing this kind of analysis. And I'll show you some of these kind of analysis sheets a bit.
Just a quick time check, Michael. We're getting on for past.
Content value and strategy. So this is the same kind of stuff. You make reports and you break them down and you download them. So page views, engagement rates, specific events you want to track, session revenue, the same for landing pages. Filter it. Use filters rather than comparisons, because then you can download individual sheets and so forth. All of this kind of stuff. We will share these slides afterwards to everyone who's here. We'll send them. It's about getting reports for your data. We also use typically Google search data, so we can have a look at your internal links. We haven't looked at this yet. In search, you will have indexing. You will have various other things. And one of the things it will show you is all the incoming links to your site and your internal linking. Why do we want to know if people are linking to pages? Because it means that they look valuable. Also, it's an SEO thing. Then we download everything to Google Sheets and then start building master sheets for your data, depending on what you want to know. So typically, I want to know how useful and valuable is the content. I would then want to break that down maybe by channel and section and country and all this kind of stuff, start looking at audiences and things. But here's like a typical content analysis spreadsheet. This is ethical consumer. I've broken down something. This shows me all the countries and the kind of key events from them, engagement rates and so forth. This is a particular content type called guide, so it's in a folder or set of folders. These are all different folders in different colors. I'm looking at this in terms of how many views it's got, how many users, the average engagement time, specifically the same for the UK. Then a whole bunch of events they might have done, clicked on a subscribe click. Then how many landing page sessions? Is it actually bringing people to the site? Is it getting people to sign up from those sessions to newsletters? What's the revenue from those landing pages? Again, broken down by UK search. Then I've added some other data. We've added some other data that's internal, because that's the other thing you can do. So when it was last published, is it behind a paywall and so forth? Then we can use all these different kind of data things. And here, it's a really simple color-coded, what's the overall performance of this page? Based on, is it delivering, are people looking at it? Is it delivering traffic? What's the value of that traffic? And you then start to see correlations between things like, oh, look, ones that are really old tend to be quite low value. Might not be the only reason, but updating them might deliver you more value, or you might think, actually, that's junk, let's get rid of it. And then we'll do the same in other ways, but these are different content type, which has a different audience and a different purpose. These pages are designed to deliver people to the website. These are features that take quite a lot of time to write. So it's really important to know which ones need updating and which ones are kind of a bit of failures. This is a report on just on which pages people are clicking subscribe. It's always good to kind of cross-reference stuff. Then from that, we've done like which content are we actually going to delete from this site because it's too poor, too old, and not serving a purpose. And again, same, but purely for particular features and so forth. So these are the kind of things we build up in terms of synthesizing the data. To interrogate it. So the hardest thing to do actually when you're doing this is not to bring your own biases and what you already think about your site to it. If you keep an open mind, you will find unexpected things, usually. High and low value pages. Look at, then you have to use your own knowledge of your site. Why are they high value? Look at them. Why are they low value? I mean, there could be lots of reasons. It's not aligned to your audience. They're very old, or they're very new, and actually they don't fit in the time window you've looked at. So they've only been on the site 3 weeks, and you're looking at a 12-month period. You have lots of pages for the same content. It's really thin content. They're not very good pages. They're not linked to internally, so people aren't finding them, or they're not appearing in search. It was a single campaign. It was only meant to work for a week. It's got really poor page speed, so people aren't loading it, or it's not recording that they've loaded it. You can then break it down. So maybe it's got different values for search or for social channels or for returning core visitors or something like this. But then you kind of think, okay, what am I going to do with this? High value pages, produce more of them, if it's potentially. Underperforming ones, the kind of mid-range ones, update them, edit them, merge them together if you've got similar pages and so forth. Low value ones, remove them and stop producing them. Leaders block syndrome for people who run council sites. Every council site has a leaders blog. Nobody ever reads any of these. It's a complete vanity publishing, and we've all got kind of chief executives and so forth, like equivalents we could think of, I assume. So what a lot of this will do, if you've got things you would like to change with your site, whether it's content you want to start producing or navigate sections you want to change or move around, this will provide you with quite persuasive data in order to say, look, we need to stop doing this. and actually get buy-in managerially. I'm really going to have to fly, aren't I? Internal search, you should have your internal search set up. You should be looking at the terms people are using because it shows whether they are finding it difficult to find key content. Which pages are they on when they use the search? Like, because they're probably problem pages, maybe. So custom tracking for terms that don't return a result. If you've got a lot of them, you're probably missing content. Click tracking for the results page. And if you've got different internal searches, track those separately. Path analysis. GA is terrible for path analysis. The old GA3 used to be quite good. The new one is practically unusable, I'd say. I haven't got one to hand. It's basically, you pick a URL and work backwards or forwards from it, seeing which pages people have come to or come from or go to. Trying to use it in GA4, you will just use days of your time trying to find unexpected behaviors to just get a mental map of how the site is being used. It was one of the best things in the old Google Analytics. So now you need to look at finding drop-off points. So your other data you'll have like exit rates from your pages, bounce rates, this kind of stuff, exit rates in particular. Why are people leaving there? Where have they come from that they've got to this page and then disappeared? Are there pages where you see really heavy navigational use? Okay, do the nav menus work? Are you seeing people going backwards and forwards between key pages? That means they're confused, right? Your navigation isn't up to snuff. So these are the kind of things we'd be looking for. Again, I'd segment it by social or return visitors. Return visitors ought to be able to use your site in a much leaner way because they're very familiar and so forth. So I'd look at main landing pages, main navigational pages, do reverse explorations from your exit pages and also key event pages, like the email sign up or whatever. Where did they come from to get to there? For conversion funnels, and I would set these up for all your sales email sign-ups, if there's important downloads, form completions. Start with really long funnels and then trying to work back, because otherwise you'll spend a lot of time. So here's one. This is like the longest funnel, sales page, completion page in the middle. Okay, here's where we've got the thing. Then let's add some more pages, because there are pages in between these, and try and find out exactly where things are going wrong and then figure out where. So that's just kind of saving time, really. Again, particularly look for people going back and forth between funnel steps, because you've got a usability problem if that happens. For deeper analysis, use other tools like Hotjar and so forth. I mean, if you really want to know how navigation is used, going back to your analytics setup, you should be tagging your internal menus, buttons, call to actions, everything like that, because they won't be recorded in GA4 unless you specifically tag them. Audiences. You build audiences from your visitor data by looking at the traffic channels, landing pages or types of pages, devices, location, whether they're new or returning, and then you can map that also to the search terms they're using if they're coming from organic search. With that, you build audiences. So these are like some really typical broad ones. Your core audience, there'll be a lot of return. They'll be coming direct or through branded search terms, searching for your name. They'll come into a handful of pages and have high engagement. Duh. You'll have specific interest people who are coming like direct into an informational page, maybe for a long time and then leaving. They're an opportunity to capture people. Campaign targets, and you'll have junk, like very typical people, English sites with very high search volumes. Go and see if 30–40% of that traffic's coming from the Philippines to a couple of old feature pages that you've forgotten existed. That's how much, like your data can be polluted. This will be unique to your site, but you should be able to draw out 5 or 6 like key audiences. Look at it in terms of the content they're looking at and the events they're doing. Can you place then a value on each audience type? Do they match your marketing personas? Because they should do. If not, then it's, do we need to change our marketing personas? But also, what are we not doing for particular groups of people? What can you do to capture visitors, particularly these kind of people who are coming in for very specific reasons? Fast into SEO, using Google Search Console, so I won't go into this, but effectively you can look at performance, the indexing, and links. SEO and exact sites using inexact tools. So this, I talk a little bit about the reliability. Search Console is still the best tool to use. This is probably best looked at in the when you look at it. But roughly speaking, when it tells you something's happening, like who's clicking, what people are searching for to get to this particular page, it's giving you somewhere between 20 and 80% of the data. That's how reliable this is. For ethical consumer, it's about 60%. For new international magazines and other clients, about 30%. So I've got a little thing I could share where you can use in Google Data Studio to figure out how much it is for your site. Some things are reliable, some things are only partial. It's much more reliable for terms that have got lots of volume and things. So what is missing is all of the kind of unique searches. 15% of Google searches are unique, and things that are just phrased a little bit differently and misspelled or like very specific. It's not telling you those, so you kind of have to imagine them. You have to basically look at what the page is about, what it says it's searching for, and then you can add other things. It's still a really good tool, and frankly, it's as good as most of the SEO tools because they're already providing estimates for stuff either. So there's a set of things here to look for. I won't go into them in detail because I've run out of time. Pages with high impressions. So basically you're looking at stuff that's like there, but you're not getting the traffic for it. Or things you think you should be getting traffic for. Cross-reference it with your paid search data. The other thing is quite important. I mean, I use Screaming Frog for this as well. Indexing here, it will show you if you've got big problems with your site. So here, that's a lovely little thing here. It's not unusual. You will see something like 400,000 unindexed URLs. There's a problem with how Google is trying to crawl your site. That will impact whether new content is actually indexed and showing you search results, It will show you a little bit about broken links and so forth. It's a kind of technical thing. And finally, I'll just talk about page speed. Most of you will know Core Web Vitals. Brilliant. Let me have a look for another site. Sorry, Oxfam. If you've got red in the mobile here, you've got a problem. Orange is kind of okay. It's mobile that it looks at in terms of whether it's going to rank your site, though it's a ranking signal. Also, if you've got lots of red, you've probably got a big usability issue. And got specialists in Agile who look at this stuff. If they're all useless pages that are red, then don't worry about it too much. You can also look for external links to broken pages and so forth. KPIs I only added because it was mentioned in the thing. But like broad KPIs, the kind of things that often we have to report on to management are next to useless in terms of actually improving sites. You can create your own KPIs, and effectively it's what I've been talking about earlier. You need to do them in a much more granular level. You also should be having KPIs for your data accuracy, technical SEO, internal search performance, all these kind of things that are super important to users or for you to be able to analyze stuff, readability scores, etc. There we go, out of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. That was great. Have a glass of water. my camera won't come back on. There it is. A lot of detail there. Does anyone? There's no questions yet in the messages. Does anyone want to shout out a question, or who would like to? Maria, you have a question.
Yeah, I do. I've got a couple, but some of them are super niche, so I'm gonna maybe keep those for later. But in terms of this like looking at having meaningful data to analyze, like how much or how long do you need to gather this data for you to get like meaningful?
Well, if you're on Search Console, you can just, if you don't have a Search Console, do it tomorrow, and it'll give you loads of backdated data.
Okay.
With GA4, like there will be enough data there, right? Probably, unless your setup is completely wrong.
Mm.
If it's broken, then you need to fix it, and you need to give it at least 6 months. Generally, what you will find is you'll do analysis like this, and actually, God, here's another 10 things I want to track. So next time I do an analysis, I've got all this data, because it's never going to be set up perfectly to begin with. I mean, unless a lot of stuff is missing, you can do this. You can do this.
I guess if you just launched a site, let's say, then if it's a brand new thing, there needs to be.
I'd give it 6 months for a new site. Yeah.
Okay. And then, as you say, it's a thing that you want to do regularly because you'll fix things the first time, and then next time you do it, you'll find new things that you want to track or incremental improvements to make.
Yeah, I mean, like with ethical consumer, we do it every year, but it's very important to the whole publishing arm to have this data to work on. So you could do, if you've got a particular thing you want to fix, you could just review that next time, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And kind of higher level stuff. And every couple of years, depending on how much capacity you've got and how much you think you need to change to improve. Because typically it would take me, depending on the size of the site and the complexity and whether I've run it before, because it's quicker the second time, 4 to 6 days maybe to do this.
Yeah.
You can't run a site without knowing this stuff. I argue. You can't run it properly.
Any more questions? Alison.
Yes, in the process of finding the button, I've forgotten. Oh no, I remember the question. It's to do with like a bulky kind of flabby site that's got loads and loads of pages that, and I'm aware we've got a lot. Does that kind of count against you in any way with Google and other search engines? Does it kind of detract so you're not being able to maximize what you have got that is visited and that sort of thing?
It depends on the site. There's lots potentially. I mean, it's harder to editorially manage, as you would know as a web editor, particularly when you're finding what pages to link to and all this kind of stuff and related stuff. Even if that's automatic, your internal search is going to usually be fairly garbage. What tends to happen in terms of organic search is it's less easy to crawl again, and you will end up having loads of duplicate content. So the most typical case for this is you will have like 7 pages that are basically about the same things that are effectively updates. So instead of having a single page that you then update, even if it's a super long page and you can keep the stuff from 2017, you end up like which one should people read, which one should be indexed, where should go, and it's going to be a less good page, so you're going to get higher bounce rates and all this kind of stuff. So it's important to keep on top of. Yeah,
thank you.
It does actively harm sites.
We're almost at time. I think my question would be, what are your 3 key takeaways, Michael, that people should take home with them?
Oh, thanks. I mean, the main thing is like, don't look at high level data. I mean, that's it really. Use download everything into Google Sheets and look at it there, because it's impossible to do within analytics. And make sure that you're actually tracking and able to analyze the stuff that's important on your site.